News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilwith, darkhookmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, and I want to wish you all simply a very happy National Rock Day.
Now, this is a day we can get behind, Allan.
Not the name, not the genre music, but just rocks.
Okay, I wonder who started this and when and for what purpose, but rocks...
It was Ugnaught and his wife, Ugla. Or whatever.
Allan, do we have a civilization without rocks?
I don't know how. We have
we need rocks.
I'm totally down with a rock day. I mean, those are like fond of childhood memories, rock hunting.
Mm-hmm.
You had little polisher thing that turned around, and
you come across those weird ones.
Came up with some cool stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm fine with rocks just so long as they're not not human rocks like kidney or gallstones.
Yeah. Oh, those are painful, I've heard. So,
we'll leave those to the medical community.
In San Diego, not to beat this into the ground, but one day in San Diego, I was on the beach and I found a rock that looked just like the Star Trek insignia.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of rock it was, but I've got that proudly displayed at my house. But so rocks, we're going to have some rock solid conversation today, aren't we? Okay. If you want to chime in on the topics, get in touch with us. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And if you want to watch the show today, go to the X platform at the News Talk 98.9, the Roars page, and you can watch the show there. But if you go over to Tool Talk Radio's Facebook page, you can check out the posts we've made over there. I have one more post to make, but I didn't have time. I'll do it at the next break. But in honor, Max, of National Rock Day, we are going to discuss a rock structure. This is about as rocky of a structure as you can get. The Casa do Penedo.
Casa do Penedo.
Penedo.
In Fafi, Portugal.
In Fafi, Portugal. And, I mean, if you go to the page, you'll see this is basically made of rocks.
No, a modern Stone Age family.
It looks like the Flintstones home, honestly. Yeah. So, but the story behind it is very interesting and very pure motives behind this and kind of a very organic it came about in a very organic way. So, Allan, in a minute, I've got a very personal story, but it's going to expand onto a bigger conversation.
Okay.
So I'll get to that in a second. I did something very interesting this week. I don't know that I've ever done it before. I made a time capsule, and I stuck it in one of my construction.
Okay.
It was pretty fun, and I took some pictures. I might even post some of those pictures, just for kicks. But
left a little note for the next contractor.
Yeah, well, the next generation. I like to think they're not going to find this thing for 150 years. When I build something, Allan, I want it to stay. So it's gonna.
People are fickle though, and they want something new in 20 years.
Yeah, this thing may collapse in 5 years, and then they're gonna But well, I want to tell you about that experience. We never got to this, and I think there are ramifications and interesting conversations to be had with this. I was talking to my wife about, I get a lot of good material by talking to her because she's sort of that intermediate, I guess you could say, home improvement person. She's getting more and more interested. She loves to do it, but she's not as well versed maybe in tools as you and I are. But HGTV has really changed the whole dynamic of people thinking about remodeling and just thinking about that. And
being wildly unrealistic.
Well, exactly. So I was canvassing her opinions about what her favorite HGTV shows and which ones she doesn't like. And it was kind of eye-opening, and I think it even translates to how we can improve Tool Talk Radio. But I just wanted to roundtable a few ideas with you on there. Allan, I don't know what you did in this week because we didn't have a chance to touch base last night.
One major topic this week.
Okay.
Garage door openers.
Oh, now that's a good... Garage doors are a very important topic.
Man, I love how my life just has... And this week, your theme is going to be brought to you by the letter G.
Right.
Boom. So you're going to get 8 calls this week, and they're all going to involve somebody's garage and probably the garage door opener.
Okay, perfect. So, and I've got more, and I'm not teasing them because we may or may not get to them. But I wanted to, so I just wanted to share a story that happened the other day.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're new to Tool Talk Radio, you should know. I've mentioned it many times, but I have a unique property. It's got we have a pretty big backyard. I mean, it's
Right.
great, but it's also a hassle. It's a lot of grass to cut, whatever. But it's a long run from the back of my house to the back property line. I'd say is almost 200 feet. That's a pretty long run.
Yeah, you have 2 full lots.
Right.
Yes.
Well, my neighbor, that's how long their property is too. Now, we don't have very many trees. We have, a handful of trees, but whoever planted these trees 50 years ago or whenever, her yard, unfortunately, she's got lots of trees and they all border the property line.
Right.
Well, we had another one the other night. It just fell and it hit our power line and it knocked it off. And the tree limb itself, though, was in pretty bad shape, Alan. So
Right.
So here's my question, because we're kind of doing a public service for her too. She's getting frustrated with these trees,
Right.
And I wonder if there's certain dynamics at play that are making her trees a little more vulnerable than ours. Like I said, I think we have like 6 trees in our yard, and they're spread out everywhere. They're not really competing with each other.
Yeah, you got a pecan over here.
Right.
You had a fig over there.
Right.
You had another. Yeah.
But
you had room
she's
between
got
them.
literally 20 trees going up and down this line here of about 200 feet.
Right.
And right there on the property line. But what do you think's going on, man?
Well,
why are her
I
trees
think
falling?
that 50 years ago, it looked fabulous.
Talk to me.
So,
Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah.
You have just hit one of my favorite sore spots later in life.
I knew I would.
I have a commercial property I'll pick on that had, when it was built in 1970 something, they went around and tried to make it look instantly pretty and put in loblolly yellow pines.
Loblolly
Yellow pines, which are kind of fluffy. But if you're a builder, you got all excited when I said that because it's a really good pine tree.
Okay.
It's good, it's good lumber.
Oh, gotcha.
But
okay.
these are big, straight, strong trees. But now let's fast forward 40 years, and they don't look so great. They now look like redwoods, leaning over your building, waiting to crush you.
Right.
Because they're a softwood pine tree. They're now 60 feet tall. And, welcome to...
And pine needles. Those things are sticky and messy.
Oh, my gosh.
And they never break down.
The sheer volume.
Right.
So in your particular instance, I just happen to know these are oak trees.
Okay.
And, all right, oaks at a certain age begin to have a lot of deadfall because they more or less prune.
Oh, they shed themselves.
They
huh?
shed
Okay.
interior limbs, get killed by other limbs. But what happened here is 50 years ago, the well-meaning landscaper wanted to sell those properties and wanted to put a pretty tree fence line. So they went and bought a bunch of 10-foot tall, fluffy trees and stuck them close together to make them look all pretty.
I think you're dead on. Now that you're saying that, I'm like, because I could picture these as shorter trees. Maybe they're a little poofed out. That would have created a perfect
It
fence.
would have been a beautiful
Exactly.
windbreak and that kind of stuff. And
Little privacy for each neighbor and all that.
And
Okay.
so anybody out there in the landscaping business listening right now is shaking their heads vehemently.
Yeah.
Going, all right, we made it look fabulous today. What we didn't care about was 20 years from now, 30 years from now. It's kind of like the contractor who right after the plumber gets done running the sewer through the dead center of the front yard, runs out and sticks a tree right on top of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Because,
this is a good spot
Yeah,
for
30
that.
years from now, it's not going to get into those, this is new PVC pipe, and those roots won't get in there.
Right.
Famous last words.
Oh, gosh.
As everybody in the Walnut Grove area is now shaking their fist at the radio.
Yeah.
Because welcome to what happens. All right, so these trees have now grown up, but now they're too close.
That
In
seems
the
like
wild,
it to me. Yeah.
they would have been self-pruned.
Right.
They'd have been,
When you say that, you just mean that it's survival of the fittest,
survival
basically.
of the fittest. Somebody would have fell on one of them, because, you look at,
knocks this one over.
right,
and
you
that's
look at
it.
oak trees growing out by themselves, and there's millions of acorns around them. But in the wild, the deer eat the acorns. They carry them off. The squirrels bury them. They spread the trees out. They don't grow in a straight line every 12 feet apart.
I didn't also mention, Alan, that there's bushes scattered throughout,
Oh, of course
right
there are.
in between these trees. So
And the
now
harm,
that's even. So are they just fighting over nutrients? And it's
well,
like,
this happens a lot. I see people always try to put pretty gardens around the base of a tree.
mm-hmm.
So they got a nice looking tree and they try to put stuff around it. And for some reason, it's always very ill looking.
Mm-hmm.
It just, the garden around the tree doesn't look good. All right. You're trying to put a little 2-foot azalea up against a 60-foot oak in the battle for water, nutrition, soil, squirrel poop, whatever.
Right.
And it just doesn't have a chance
Okay.
of, as a friend of mine once found out, this is one of these goofy things. He made a tree volcano.
We know about those, yeah.
And, this is one of these, every landscaper in the world will tell you, do not pile stuff up the branch. And I'll tell you why when we come back.
Okay, perfect. And then, of course, we do got to give a shout out because the I always love talking to the MLGW crews, and I'll tell you what they had to say when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
The world is a question. This room is an answer. And the answer is no.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Wow, sounds like a real cheerful musical, Max. Thanks, man. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, especially if you want to let us know how you're celebrating National Rock Day, which we are proudly celebrating today. I mean, we've all encountered rocks. We all have rocks in our lives. And as we said before, I don't think we would have a civilization without rocks. I don't even know what the world would look like if there weren't rocks. I mean, it's holding it all together. So we have quite a bit to discuss on that front. But before the break, I was discussing, we're kind of doing a little helpful PSA, I suppose. My neighbor has 20 trees going up and down the property line. Allan's kind of, and they fail fairly regularly. We have huge limbs that fall off.
Yep.
When you talked about self-pruning, I thought that was interesting. So basically, the nutrients go where they got to go, and the limb that doesn't quite get what it needs, that falls off, and they disperse the nutrients everywhere. But Max, you had something that you wanted to say before that?
Oh, I was just saying the loblolly when I was looking it up. Not only is that a weird name, but it also looks like something out of fantasy.
Oh, okay. Because Allan talked about planting loblolly trees or something.
Well,
it's an odd name, but they're pine
facility,
trees, right?
but it shoots straight up, which is why it's a good lumber tree. And I imagine, like I said, in the late 70s when they planted them, they were probably 5 to 8, 10 feet tall, and they were pretty fluffy because they were smaller but bushier, and they made a beautiful row. And you see instances of this all over a city.
Right.
And all I got to say is, I know it sounds like we diss on the late 70s, early 80s a lot.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of reasons.
Yeah, there was a whole different mindset.
There
back
was,
then.
man. I mean, we got
particle board. There's just all sorts.
We got it. Well, we got everybody's favorite pear tree that smells like rotten fish and falls apart. And the bad part is they planted a lot of those things 30, 40 years ago. And guess what? They only live about 30 or 40 years.
Right.
So now they're breaking and falling apart, and these huge limbs are falling on people's houses. We just had the last remnants of Hurricane Beryl actually wandered across the Mid-South. And I mean, for those of you listening outside of the area or around the world, Memphis is not exactly anywhere near the ocean.
No,
we are
at
hundreds of miles,
at least 7 hours away.
Yeah,
I think.
We're a good 6-hour drive, away from an ocean. So for a hurricane, or at least its remnants, the tropical depression, to make it to us is pretty impressive.
Right.
So, this thing comes wandering up, and we got some wind and we got some rain. But driving around Memphis now, you will see, and I can think of at least 3 houses between my house and the radio station that has got at least a 20-foot long tree limb lying on the roof.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, yeah.
Boom, boom. So these things get brittle, and the other problem when they're planted too close together, they're not necessarily getting the nutrition they need. So the other problem we have in the South is black mold in the tree, black rot.
Oh, yeah.
And this actually infects a lot of the harder wood trees here and makes them a bit hollow.
I think this is what that tree had that fell on our power line.
And you'll see the...
And does it smell? Because this smelled really bad.
Yeah, well, you'll also see like the mushrooms growing out the side of the wood where it's been weakened. So when they plant them too close together like that, and it's in an artificial environment like a neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have deer coming through. A beaver's not going to come by and eat one of them.
Right.
These trees are going to be there unless you start paying to have somebody cut them down or thin them out.
Well, this is good information. I'm going to tell. I don't know if she's listening right now, but I'm gonna point that out, and maybe they could just sort of start planning on. Okay. In the meantime, short of cutting them down, Allan, is it good advice to just maybe raise the canopy, like trim, relieve as much
of any good
can.
arborist? Yeah. Any good arborist could come out and give you a lighten the load evaluation
package
on the tree.
Yeah.
So they could look at the trees and how they're growing and point out your danger points. And this is where I'm going to say, do not attempt this at home yourself. No. Because there's a reason these type of branches are called widowmakers.
Oh, you should have seen what it did to our fence. I mean, and it was only about 8 inches in diameter, but it was like a saw right through the fence, just crushed it.
I have a wonderful picture on my phone from a friend's house where a oak limb fell out of the top of the tree, and this is about a 15-foot long limb, and it is speared straight into the ground, up and down. It looks like a giant javelin.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And they're full of water.
And I mean, it is in the ground. It is at least a foot in. And it's, I mean, you're like, oh my gosh.
Well, I wanted to take this opportunity to show a little love too to the MLGW team. I've never had a bad experience with those guys because like I said, this is a regular occurrence. We live in a neighborhood with a ton of trees. I almost know some of these guys on a first name basis, but there's nothing better. So the tree fell at 10:15 and knocked the power out. I decided to stay up because we have a gate that's I want to make sure they know where to get in. So they showed up about an hour or so later, and those guys, man, there's no more beautiful sight than those flashing yellow lights when they show up. And so everybody down at MLGW, I just want you to know how much we appreciate your staff. The guys are great. They had to come out in 2 waves, though. They had to send a tree trimmer. Right. Then they had to reroute the thing. It took about 6 or 7 hours, but they got it done, and they're just polite, hardworking, fearless. We love those guys. So, man,
well, I'll throw in a shout out on top of that one.
Okay.
Because of one of their giant tree trimming rigs has been working down one of the routes I drive here in town for the last few weeks. And I cannot tell you how entertaining it is to see a giant 30-foot tall buzzsaw flying up and down. Oh my gosh, that is... You could just sit and watch that guy work for hours. It is amazing.
I've seen those guys, and hats off because we had a few problems over the last couple of years with, especially during the summer. It would rain, we get wind, and then trees would fall. So now I think they're making a real effort to preemptively get those things out of the way so that they'll, clean it up and all that. But all in all, it wasn't a big drama. We didn't even lose our food in the fridge, luckily.
Right,
so.
right.
But anyway, I'm gonna pass that information along to my neighbor. So I appreciate the arborist insight, Allan. But I wanted to shift gears. This is sort of a round table, and I think this is actually, I found this insightful just since we do Tool Talk every week. But I was talking to my wife because we were looking around. And I don't know about you, but in our home, we go through waves. We might go 2 years and not do one improvement to our house.
Right.
Then we get the bug, and all of a sudden, everything. I told you, it wasn't that long ago. We redid our entire kitchen. Right. The last finishing touch was we needed a new refrigerator, and we finally bought that. And so every single thing in our kitchen is new. And we're like, wow, this is really cool. And we were reflecting about HGTV because that's where you get a lot of good ideas. I'm not going to lie, I steal them, but not all HGTV shows are created equal, Alan.
Oh no,
and we're not going to name names, but I was just sort of curious since my wife is more intermediate, you could say. She's not in the trenches like you and I are when it comes to this stuff. But I asked her basically what ones inspire her, what ones she appreciates, and which ones just rub her the wrong way that she can't sit. You want to hear let's do the bad ones first.
Okay.
Those are more fun. She hates these ones where you turn it on and every 30 seconds they want to make sure you know what a big my architecture firm of such and such and I studied this and I did this and whatever.
Right.
They talk about all their expertise. It's like, I don't care. Just show me your expertise. Who did Paul McCartney or John Lennon or something said, if you got to brag, you ain't all, or there was some quote, if you're telling everybody how great you are, then it really
ain't so great.
Just be great and do it. But she said those things instantly turn her off. Plus she feels like it's out of reach with her.
Right. Okay.
Whatever.
Right.
She also hates ones where they take forever to get to the point. It's like, today we're going to change a doorknob. 30 minutes in, they change. You know what I mean? What do they call that? Padding the runtime.
Oh.
That makes me think of our old producer from the nation at Jake and the Motor Mouths, Bud. He once told me that he likes watching car shows, but he just mutes it.
Or car videos, right?
Yeah, car shows or everything. Cause
TV shows, yeah.
Yeah, because I like the cars that they see, but I don't care about the drama and stuff that they have on all the car shows, like the artificial drama.
Well, are we going to get it finished in time to make it to the show?
Yes. We have a deadline and the shipping and all that.
Yeah, of course you are. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on air. Yeah.
They always have that. There's always this deadline that's not realistic.
None of us care.
No.
Just show us how you put that engine in. Show us how you did this. Show us how you did that. That's all we want to see.
Right.
We don't care about your human drama.
Well,
but
is there any, because she loves several, of course, but what are some that you guys hate before I move on with the,
I'm going to have to agree with her list.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The one any show that has what I call the crazy client.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, let's see. My husband's a part-time drummer in a band, and I raise crickets. And our budget for the house is $800,000. And you're like, what?
None of us live in that world.
That's when you look at everybody you know and you go, if we all got together, we couldn't afford this house.
Right. Okay, okay, cool. There's a lot here, and it's going to be fun to discuss. So, but when we come back, we'll also talk about the things we love about HGTV, and we have a lot more coming up here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
We painted the whole house, and without getting a drop of paint on anything but the flapping flotsam. What's that?
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I don't know, man. They make paint remover, SpongeBob. It's not the end of the world. So.
But he lives underwater.
A wet rag will do most of that.
How do you paint underwater? That's an Allan question.
Yeah, we got to suspend the disbelief there, Max. And we'll come back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbert from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max behind the glass. And you're making me think, Max, I wonder how many kids' minds were blown or destroyed because SpongeBob is making hamburgers underwater. I don't know. I mean,
I just want to know why all the fish walk.
Yeah. Yeah, not very efficient down there.
The only thing that swims down there is a jellyfish.
Exactly. So if you've got opinions about SpongeBob, it's a perfect day to weigh in. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And also, don't forget, today is National Rock Day, and we probably have a few rock-heavy discussions today. I know we will in our Great Moments in Building History when we discuss the Casa do Penedo or Penedo, whatever. So, one company that is rock solid and one rock solid individual is our good buddy Larry Brown with Brown Refrigeration. Well, I mean, Allan, we've said this before Rock Day. We've said it is the bedrock. It is a bedrock company. Really, in the Mid-South, there are some companies that are so efficient and so trustworthy and so state of the art. We sort of take them for granted because they're just sort of an institution. But that's what they are. When you have any HVAC needs, you cannot do better than Brown Refrigeration. They're always at the cutting edge, really, and beyond of HVAC technology. Larry's always the one alerting us to new changes in technology and new restrictions, new refrigerants, any new technology. He also works exclusively with Trane because Trane products are the top of the line, and also the Remy Halo system, which we really, folks, if you're not familiar with the Remy Halo system, you really need to get educated, learn about them, and it's a very affordable upgrade, and it uses the UV power of the sun to clean the air in your home and also create cleaning particulates. So it's like active air, you could say. It's the superhero of air molecules, and it's a very affordable upgrade. So the Remy Halo system using the UV power of the sun, which is something that's pretty standard with the installations that Brown Refrigeration does. Also, your HVAC system needs regular maintenance, not earth-shattering, but you do need to stay on top of it, and it keeps it running at peak efficiency. If you have Brown Refrigeration, stop by the home once or twice a year to give your system a tune-up, and once over, it literally will pay for itself. It'll keep it running at peak efficiency. And if you do need to replace your HVAC system and you need financing, they have great financing as well. We love Brown Refrigeration. They are, like we said, we're a bedrock company here in the Mid-South, and they answer their phones. So call them directly at 901-362-1881 or go to brownref.com. Well, before the break, we were having a little fun, Allan, but I think this is important. Everybody watches HDTV. I dare say, especially, well, it's relaxing sometimes, but also if you're a new homeowner and maybe, you and I sometimes take things for granted. We don't realize the average homeowner doesn't really understand the process of removing a wall or something. And HGTV has been very good for that. Some shows are better than others. Some shows, frankly, are fairly annoying. And we were listing some of ours, but some are really good. And we want to show a little love to some of those because, there's some that really do inspire and help us. So what are a couple of, I know there's one at the top of your list. I already see it coming.
It's, like I said, the ones that make me crazy are the ones with the crazy clients and insane budgets. And you just look at this and you're just kind of like, I'm buying $1 million home and, I'm a part-time, and you're like, no, stop. The other one I do like the shows that show you when something goes wrong.
They're real. Okay, that's true.
Because
it's not all sunshine and daisies.
Well, you and I, we have our little segment, 30 Years of Stupid, where you just don't know what you're going to run into until you open it up.
Right.
And there are a couple of shows that really specialize in you're right, you got a problem. Let's yank that sheetrock off of there and see what problems are.
Right. Did you have something, Max?
I had something I wanted to mention. I know there's a show that we're all going to mention. I'm not sure if this is on HGTV, but another one, this is a brand of show that I quite enjoy. I'm not sure if it's on HGTV, but I remember watching it when I was a kid, like on PBS on Saturday mornings. It's called The Woodwright Shop. And what I loved about that is he had the hand-powered shaker technology and everything. It's like, it's not practical, but boy, was it pleasant to look at. He had a lathe that he literally had to pedal, and I loved it.
Oh, I remember that. But that's actually, I used to watch that show, Max, and what I liked about it is what it made me think of is what a woodworker would have been doing 150 years ago or something.
Well, if you think about it, most of our grandiose buildings, most of the, what we would call the collector's items,
right,
were all built by hand. There wasn't, battery-powered power tools. And, so when you're looking at some of these rich, ornate, Victorian and older structures, keep in mind, it was an army of artisans, of skilled craftspeople, men and women,
right,
that made that happen. And 200 years later, 300 years later, last week we were talking about Liberty Hall. Liberty Hall was, in Pennsylvania, was built before the Revolutionary War and is still a good-looking, structure that, looks like it still performs its functions.
It's dignified and yet humble at the same time. I like
But
that it's not gaudy.
All done by hand.
Right.
You'd have had somebody sitting there with that peddler, and you imagine how good his thighs had to have been.
Cutting bricks by hand and stuff.
Sitting there and getting that stuff done. So, yeah, I love those shows, and I love the shows that, okay, let's start at the roof and figure out where the problem is.
Okay.
Quick shout out to our buddy Jay Hill.
Yeah.
And then I like the ones that then turn to people like Larry Brown and go, all right, did you see the HVAC in the basement? Eisenhower was in office when that was put in. And then they show you just how much 30 years of technology or 40 years of advances totally changed the profile of the hot water tanks, where they go, how they go, why we don't put them in the attic anymore, why we don't need to, why we can, if you want to change something. I also like the fact that a lot of the shows remove some misnomers, like we're going to move a wall. No, you're not. You don't move a wall. You build a wall and you tear a wall down. Yeah. There's no moving a wall. and I remember as a kid, you'd hear somebody say,
were just sliding
move
the
wall,
over,
man. I'm like, what do y'all just unscrew it and slide it over?
Right.
Or what do you do?
Right.
And the first time somebody's like, oh, no, man, you tear this one out, you build a new one.
Right.
Well, that's not moving the wall. That's building a new one.
There you
now,
go.
could they, in theory, eventually move walls? Like, we're getting to Lego.
we're
We're getting to
going
Lego era sort of stuff.
I think we're on that train right
we
now.
are really close to that cusp at this point, to where some of the new modular houses, really honestly, I think you could have the roof lifted.
Technically, the
and
boxable home already does that. It literally slides the wall, then you fold the house up and drive it somewhere else.
And we're not talking about something like Scooby-Doo or like the old Batman show where it's like the wall literally moves like, what when they're like moving around against a ghost.
No, I mean, no, we're probably we're probably 20, 30 years away from that actually being a practical,
the regular thing. Yeah.
A practical invention in the home.
I did have one that I wanted to mention though. So she pointed this out. It didn't even occur to me, but and this will probably steer into one you like, but international shows. Now that we have streaming, there's a lot of shows over on Netflix or whatever, where you might see contractors in Norway or Ireland or Australia or something, and it's interesting when you see the different perspectives, especially when you get into Europe, because like if we want to do a room addition, we find out you get your permit, you talk to whatever, the neighborhood association, you get down to work. Well, there, you might be digging up a historical landmark, or you have neighborhoods that are 1,000 years old, and you have to stay in keeping with the architecture. And it's a whole different ballgame when you see how contractors like you and I have to function in a place like that. And I find those very interesting. So,
honestly, as a friend of mine in London put it, she goes, this is the only place in the world where you can dig a pool and discover a Roman villa.
Right. Which has happened.
Like 6 feet under your backyard. And you're like, wow, that's, got to admit, that's not a problem we normally have in Memphis.
Max, there was a not a documentary, it was a movie you just recently watched, a true story, right?
It was pretty cool, although it was a parking lot, not like a home. It was about a woman by the name of Philippa Langley, just an amateur historian who said, I think the bones of Richard III are in this parking lot, and it was under a space that was marked with the letter R.
Right. That's hilarious.
And they found it. She got recognized by the Queen. I watched it too. It was a really interesting movie on Hulu, but I mean that's what you're dealing with. You don't just start getting to work and get the bulldozer.
And just one more opportunity to show the Brits some love. One of the best shows that I've seen in terms of like aesthetically pleasing, like the Woodwright Shop, is the Repair Shop.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Now we spoke. I think we even did a special segment on the Repair Shop, folks. If you want one of the most relaxing and enjoyable shows, I think it's on Netflix or something. It's just called the Repair Shop. It's a bunch of people in Great Britain. It looks like they're kind of out in the country. It is the most charming and cozy workshop you'd ever want. And they take items that people, maybe it's very important to your family. Maybe it's a family heirloom that needs repair, and they fix it. And they've got experts in every field.
Oh, yeah.
I I think we, Emma, in like American television, could learn a lot from British television. They make cooking look relaxing. We make it look stressful. They make repairs look relaxing. We make it look stressful.
I hate to say it, Max. You know how much I love America, but there's nothing that can touch the Great British Baking Show. They do it better than anybody.
Be chilled and groovy. Enjoy what you're doing.
Right.
That is a big thing.
And be a good sport about it.
Well, it's no secret about me landscaping and gardening. And, guys, that's not a stressful event. That is like Zen.
Right.
Get out there and enjoy doing this stuff.
Right.
Have fun with it.
Yeah, I would say that. But you're right, Max. The repair shop is worth a watch. Check it out.
You'll be quite chuffed.
Yeah, you'll be right. You'll be right chuffed and everything. So, but it's interesting when you consider what and what things on HGTV are just a waste of time, and what are worth watching. So those are our votes. We'd love to hear your votes. So get in touch with us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline, 901-683-0989, and let us know about your watching habits. All right. All bets are off. When we come back here on Tool Talk Radio, we're going to find out what Allan did this week.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
What is the most inspiring thing I ever said to you?
Don't be an idiot. Changed my life. Whenever I'm about to do something, I think, would an idiot do that? And if they would, I do not do that thing.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Boy, a lot of wisdom being dispensed today, man.
We wouldn't have a lot of the HGTV shows if we had if they didn't follow that advice.
Exactly. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. I think we've activated some people with our conversation. We have a texter on the line we'll get to in just a minute. But if you're just tuning in, we would love to hear from you today. Well, for one thing, today is National Rock Day, which rocks are very important. We'll probably discuss some of the building properties of rocks later. I'm sure we are, because in our great moments in building history, we're going to discuss a rock structure, the Casa do Penedo. But before the break, we were talking about HGTV because it is a big thing, and I don't remember it being much of a the only thing I remember growing up that even remotely seemed like HGTV was like This Old House or the New Yankee Workshop or something. But now it's there are entire channels dedicated. And we're kind of talking about some of the things we like about it and some that we don't. I just want to say one last thing before I move along. But and it's one of the things I hate, because sometimes I sort of interchange like car shows where they make it, they fix up cars. And HGTV. And one of the things I just absolutely can't stand are these ultra quick cuts. Allan, you're a film editor. You know what I'm talking about. Literally, the images change every like half second. It's like boom, 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 boom. It's exhausting to watch, and it's really obnoxious in my opinion. And the fake drama that it creates. It's it makes it look really intense. Sometimes if you look at something with the sound off, because like Max was talking about Bud, our old producer, you'd come in here and he had on the big monitor, he had a car show going on, like a hot rod show or something. And literally every 1 or 2 seconds, it's changing images. I just find that really obnoxious, man. I don't know.
Well,
doesn't work for me. But Max, you said there's a texter on the line. What'd they have to say?
Well, first off, his name is Joe.
Nice.
They said, how about Mike's Home Shows?
Mike's Home Shows. What is that?
Yeah, that's Holmes Gets It Right. Canadian contractor Mike Holmes is who you called in when Chuck in his truck, Dan in his van, lick it and stick it, tore up your house.
Really?
Did something wrong. Did something really wrong. And he would come in and, okay, let's start with what code is. Let's start with, do you have a permit? Let's start with, he would just kind of bluntly go through and go, all right, let's make this right.
So as the homeowner is hanging their head in shame, he's listing off everything that the guy did wrong. And
he would walk in and we've all been on a job where somebody didn't pay attention to the high water mark during the rain. Or somebody, and again, the client, a lot of times the client isn't real clear what they actually wanted the finished product to be. So, that was.
So they didn't know what they wanted. Yeah.
And some of them would confess that. But the whole Mike Holmes thing was, okay, this is why it's wrong. This is why it's right.
What part of the country is Mike Holmes in?
He was a Canadian. It was a Canadian show.
Okay. Does he sound like a Canadian?
No. He sounds shockingly very Middle Western.
There's not
Very
much difference.
flat
I got
accent.
news for you. I grew up in the Midwest.
Yeah,
so,
there's not a good day A thing going on. He's just he's very well spoken, and now I think his children are doing the show.
So it sounds like they took 30 years of stupid and made a series out of it.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
But what do you find satisfying about it? Because I don't know what our caller Joe or.
Well, I like the show and the fact that he really goes over what's wrong.
Okay.
Why you don't do this? Because I have a number of clients that I've worked with over the years that the original meeting, you would really wonder if we even know each other or like each other. Because it starts a lot with, well, that's a lovely idea that we're not going to do. Because that just ain't going to happen.
Let's get all the bad ideas out of the way now.
All right. I actually have a very dear friend that I actually accuse of being Rube Goldberg's illegitimate daughter. And if you don't know who Rube Goldberg is, go look up the game Mousetrap.
Right.
It's overly complicated ways of doing something simple.
Right.
So,
why do something in 2 steps when you can do it in 50 steps? So,
Well, there are a lot of people that do that. And I know it cracks you up that I actually get paid to take people on a tour of a big box store.
Yeah. You never really told me how much you get paid, though. Sounds like, they buy you a sandwich or something.
Sometimes I work for food. Sometimes I work for money. It depends on what's on the table here. But, when you take people through, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And what I did like about the Mike Holmes show is he pointed out why this was wrong.
Right.
So that was my favorite part of the show.
Okay. Well, Joe, thanks for texting in about that. We'd love to hear more from you. And you don't have to text in just about HGTV. There's a lot of topics on the table today, but we love hearing from you. And you can get in touch with us at 901-683-0989. All right. Well, let's shift gears. It's been sunshine and daisies so far, but that's probably about to change.
Oh, the humanity.
Well, this is interesting, Allan. Somehow in our show prep, I missed what you did this week, but it's sometimes nice to get hit blind.
Hit a little blind here.
So what did you do this week?
All right. Well, since we've already said do not go try to trim out your giant tree yourself, get an arborist. We don't want you to die.
Yeah.
I am going to come out with the following words. Get a professional to play with your garage door opener.
Oh, boom. And we're not really kidding about that. The garage door could be one of the most deadly things.
Happily, I was trained by people that actually do this, so I don't mind doing it. But there are certain things even I won't do, and I will not wind a major spring.
No, those springs, you don't get near those garage door springs. Those things will kill you.
If you don't have the right tools, that thing will kill you.
Yeah.
And that's not an exaggeration.
No. Think of how much pressure is in a spring to lift the door.
One of the jobs I had to correct this week was the side springs. Because you either have the big major spring at the front by the exit. You have the big winding spring there, or you have the side springs.
Well, you can have both, right? Because don't they have thinner springs that kind of keep it stable on the side?
Right. Well, this particular garage had the thinner springs, the side springs.
Okay.
And whoever had ingeniously installed them, because this was like a second or third installation, this was an older house. The garage doors, the slide doors themselves were still in good shape. They just needed cleaning and lubing. But I had to repair the big hole in the wall and the big broken glass that went through a security screen because one of the side springs, while it was fully extended, broke.
Oh, man.
And went flying around their garage in a murderous glee, punching holes in walls and eventually going out the back glass.
So it's ricocheting off of it, and then boom.
It went totally Daffy Duck.
I guess it's funny that nobody. I mean, as long as nobody gets hurt. But
Well,
yeah,
and that's because whoever installed it forgot to install the safety cable. There is a wire cable
redundant
that goes
cable
down the center of that spring to, in case it breaks, keeps it from killing you.
because there's a bolt, and if it eventually gives out, yeah, you need redundancy.
Well,
on these
it's
things,
also
so.
just because the side spring is just that little hook of spring at the end.
Right.
And if that rusts through or bends, gets weakened, and it snaps, all of that tension in that spring spread out over 8 feet is going to go flying around that room. And happily, nobody was home. Happily, nobody was in the garage.
No cars were in there. Luckily, it would have done a number on the side. Yeah.
So a little bit more about that when we come back.
Okay, wow. Well, you never know what Allan's going to get into. So, but we've got a really interesting second hour coming up. Quite a bit on the table. So stay tuned here on Tool Talk Radio.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And yes, this works just like a regular text line. That means you can even send pictures. I don't think you can send video, but...
you can.
You can? Okay, well, just send it in if it's tasteful and interesting, especially if you've done something really cool, if you made a project that you're really proud of, or if you just bought this really awesome tool that you want to show off.
Or show off your rock collection.
Yeah, perfect day to show off your rock collection because today is National Rock Day.
It is.
And not to be, it's not a day for Led Zeppelin and Rush.
Although I would like to see like a vintage Rumors album or something like that.
Yeah, but we're talking actual rocks. We're talking big old rocks.
Flintstones.
We're going to celebrate. So today, go home and sit with your rocks out in the yard and whatever.
If you still have a pet rock too.
Also, you can watch the show if you go to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's X page and check out the posts we've made over on the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. In a minute, we're going to continue finding out what Allan did this week on Allan's Week in Review. But off the air, Allan, you and I were saying something, and I feel like this more or less behooves us to do our PSA. And I just want to say something. You told me you bought a new garage door, saved substantially, substantially. Well, it's funny. I didn't mention this to you, but I just bought a new refrigerator.
Right.
And we took advantage of the 4th of July sales. I will say, folks, if you're not aware, especially if you're a new homeowner, you should know that the 4th of July sales and the Black Friday sales over at your big box store, they're not playing games. They're not kidding. We got a $1,800 refrigerator out the door, Allan, with taxes. It was $1,057. We saved $853. I don't even know what the math is on that, but that's like a 30 or 40%. It's a lot. You saved massively on your door. They are not kidding. They put these things on sale.
Well, the other thing I like, of course, this goes to your gardening department, but a lot of these your larger nurseries and your big box stores and that kind of stuff are a little bit merciless when it comes to markdowns because they've got so much new product coming in.
Is that what's going on?
Scheduled in a timely manner.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's early spring, so you sell these.
Right.
It's later spring, so you sell this merchandise. It's middle of summer, so this merchandise comes in. And these places, they're limited on space. And if you watch those markdowns, if you watch those markdown counters, you can find amazing stuff.
Yeah.
At a discount.
It's real. It's exciting. I was actually over at the big box store. It was the day after. It was July 5th, and I wasn't thinking about the refrigerator. I knew we needed one, but I think I was buying a roll of tape or something, and I just happened to go over there, and it occurred to me, I'm like, oh wait, we're still under the 4th of July,
right? And
I looked, and what's neat about today too is you can go. I had my wife on the phone. I texted her a picture of the price, and it's got all the information, and literally you can Google and research and find the reviews and everything. that part of technology I do like. I mean, you can instantly do some consumer reporting and shopping, and I'm just telling you, man, if you're planning and of updating and getting appliances or things for your home, just start planning for Black Friday or July 4th. You will save money, man. So,
Well, if you want motivation to get a project done,
yeah.
well, in my case, I happened to walk in the day before, and they had a doorbuster sale, and my garage door opener's been on its last legs for longer than I can remember. Sometimes it opens, sometimes it needs a little help. Sometimes, it's just old.
Right.
It's just old. It's time, and the technology of the day was fine, but of course, the brand I purchased has changed substantially over the years, and it wasn't a terrible installation. And again, I'm going to point out, if you don't know what you're doing with a garage door, hire a professional. It's worth the money. It's not worth your life.
No, they are dangerous.
Yes.
And also, it's even beyond the danger, Alan. There's a lot of precise, these things have to go up evenly. If they don't, they're going to jam. And you might have a driveway that's slightly off, or you might have had a house that's settled a little. And that's a pretty big span. And if it's not even,
There's a lot of weight. And my final word on it is, you don't really have any idea how strong that lifting mechanism really is.
Good
Because
point.
it's lifting, if you think about them big old doors,
Right.
and it's putting them down.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds like you had a successful operation. And
Yeah,
it's
well,
probably,
I have a very happy garage door working at my house, and my client has repaired walls, new glass in the door, and safety straps under their new springs.
Okay, so what could have been tragedy, or just what it was a good week in review.
It was a good week for some reflection on, is this safe? Yeah.
And folks, if you ever if you ever just you're bored and you want to go back through past episodes of Tool Talk Radio and listen to Alan's week in review, I'm just sitting here reflecting, Alan. There's no rhyme or reason. Every week you might spend the whole week working on a place's computer system, or you might do landscaping, or you change a garage door, or you change window. There, hats off, but I don't know if I could handle that sort of that type of versatility, or not knowing.
Well, there's
a
computer job this week too, but that wasn't as interesting as the garage door. So.
Okay, all right, but all in all, a successful week. So, all right, well, hey, let's shift gears, you guys. And I'm getting a little workout with this one, but I think there's a little bit more in this conversation. But we're going to get to our must-have item of the week. I'm holding it up. It's pretty heavy, but Alan, tell everybody what I'm holding up. And it's pretty beat up, too.
Man, you're holding up a trailer hitch.
A trailer hitch. So I don't think I have to get into too much description, other than I'd say this thing weighs 20 pounds or something. But it's frankly something I didn't own until about 5 years ago.
Man.
But I just didn't think about it. And I didn't really have much that I wanted to tow. And also, I don't think I had a vehicle with a towing package on it. So, but folks, if you've got a vehicle that has the towing package in the back, man, when you start towing things, it's a little addictive, and it's pretty cool. But the downside of this is, if you have a trailer and if you have a towing hitch and everything, you're suddenly going to become everybody's best friend when it's time to move. So you have that downside. But Alan, a towing hitch, well, it's important. It's obviously something you have to do correctly and everything. But it did change. It changed my life. I mean, in the old days, there were times where if I wanted something pretty big, I had to get it delivered. Well, not anymore. I've got a trailer and I got a towing hitch.
Well, and it's one of those things where, if you don't need a trailer all the time, you can just go rent one for the day.
Right.
Hook that baby up, go get that pile of sheetrock or plywood or whatever it is you need. Go get it, go drop it off where you need it, go take that trailer back, and go on about your business.
Well, funny you should mention that, because the reason I bought this trailer hitch was because I was helping my daughter move, and it was one of these things where literally the price, because, when you rent it, if you don't own a trailer hitch, you have to rent the hitch. And then you rent the little connection that goes to your turn signals and everything. Well, it more or less costs the same amount of money to buy this thing than to just rent it. So I'm like, well, why not why not have this in my arsenal? The one thing that happened though when I first bought it was I bought it and we went to put a trailer on it and it didn't fit.
You gotta match up the ball size.
Right. I was about to say, because they all look basically the same, but man, and those are precise.
Yes.
There's different ball sizes, and if you don't do it right, it ain't going on there. And if you do somehow manage to slam it on there, it ain't coming off.
No way. Somebody will be out there with a cutting torch. Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think it also, having this trailer hitch just makes me feel more, what's the word? Just independent, a little more flexibility. So, like, because I still do sometimes have, like, if I have a really big project, it's just easier to have the company just deliver the lumber for me. But there's times where it's like, I'd rather just do this myself. So,
Well, I sometimes get weird jobs that are in odd places. Mm-hmm. And it's just so much easier for those of us that know exactly where we want to drop it.
Right.
Because I don't maybe not need it delivered in the front yard. I might need it delivered to the South 40 back there where we're actually going to work on the barn.
Right.
So, it makes a difference.
I think I got a couple minutes, right, Max? So, I just wanted to. All right, I'm going to save it though. I do want to give a shout out to somebody that I met the other day. I'm always learning. Well, not learning. You're relearning important lessons. I met somebody. It reminded me that everybody has a story to tell. Mm-hmm. If you just take the minute to find out or to talk to people. That's why we need to talk to each other, folks. We don't need to just be looking at our phones when we're out in public. You always learn things about people. I know you know this at conventions, Allan. You start talking to somebody at a convention, you don't know who you're talking. They might be a scientist. They might be in a Klingon uniform or something like that. But
I usually find that at the agricultural supply houses.
Right.
Because, I do a lot of work out in the rural areas, and everybody's standing in line. We all want to know what you're up to.
Yeah. Well, I met a very unique woodworker the other day that you would, from the outside, you would never guess this woman was a woodworker, but she
awesome.
is. And I want to tell you a little bit about her when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Oh, I'm afraid the deflector shield will be quite operational when your friends arrive.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
He doesn't sound afraid. He sounds very happy that the deflector shield will be operational. You cannot trust anything that Palpatine said. Sarcasm and evil at the same time. But that's why we love him. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And remember, you can still send pictures, too. And there's a lot of topics on the table, and you know the drill. We'd love to hear from you and find out what you're up to. But in a minute, we're going to get to our great moments in building history. But I just wanted to share an anecdote because it's just another reminder of, like I said, Allan, I think everybody out there has a story to tell, or they're just, they have a unique, maybe part of their personality or their life that if you just take the time to find out, it can be some very interesting things. But I was looking at a job. This particular woman, Beth, she's a retiree. And she's a widower because her husband passed away a few years ago. Very nice lady, and living out in Collierville. Well, actually, Piperton, which is sort of
right.
Very nice neighborhood, beautiful home. All this woman's very dignified, dressed to the nines, very, proper. Mm-hmm. Well, we got to talking about her husband because he was a woodworker. He had a hobby as in the garage, and he was a woodworker. And I happened to notice this one cabinet that he had built, and I was really struck by the molding that he had made because he had created this very precise molding around the top of it, cutting it out of oak. Allan, you know how hard it is to router oak. It's hard. It's unforgiving. If you slip even an inch, it's
over.
And I was really, I said, wow, your husband was really good craftsmanship here. And she goes, well, he taught me a lot. And then it turns out she's a woodworker.
Yes.
And she goes, and I'm looking at this like, this is a woodworker. And she goes, I'm a little stuck right now, though, because the bandsaw blade came off. And, folks, if you don't know what a bandsaw is, a bandsaw could cut a cow in half.
And we use them for that,
This is a serious tool. I said, well, let's go check it out. I was looking at a job in her kitchen, and I said, so we walked out to the shop. She was very proud of all the tools. She's showing me her layout, all the things she does out there. But what happened, Allan, was the bandsaw blade was off. And, folks, if you don't know a bandsaw, you can change the blades. They're meant to be changed,
right?
Different thicknesses. Well, the tensioner wasn't correct. That's all it was. I said, let's fix this thing right now. And so we fixed it. I showed her how to adjust the blade, and she was very grateful. But I just was struck by this lady does not strike me, because she was all excited. She was showing me all the things she wants to start making but she was hung up because of the bandsaw. I don't know. It's very cool. You meet people like that. And Beth, I am impressed with your spirit and with the way you approach life. Just a really nice lady to be around. It was cool.
Well, that's what keeps you going, is that next project.
Mm-hmm.
You got something to do. And you and I have said this many, many times over the years. Most of what we do really isn't that horribly difficult.
Right.
A lot of it. Some of it is very technical, but most of it is...
It's not beyond an average person's.
It is fairly just having the gumption to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Take your time. And the biggest thing is, and I'm going to pick on our HGTV, do not involve drama and trauma in the project. Take your time and just enjoy doing it. And, on occasion, even read the book.
Right.
Those instructions occasionally are worthwhile reading.
Oh, yeah.
But really, just take your time, and you would really be amazed. And I call it ant mentality.
What do you mean?
Because you ever see, like, ants in a line?
Yeah.
The ants found a Twinkie.
Mm-hmm.
They're tiny little ants and this giant Twinkie laying on the ground.
Yeah.
But they take one tiny little piece at a time, one little ant at a time, and eventually they'll haul that giant Twinkie back into the ant house. And it's just, some projects you just got to have a little ant mentality.
Yeah.
And as a friend of mine was trying to build a fire pit, it was honestly one cinder block and one rock at a time. You can't pick up and carry 4 of them, so don't worry about it. Just carry one. Take your time. Get it the way you want it.
But get off your phone, turn off the TV, and go do something.
Get up and go do a project.
Beth
Absolutely.
was the same way. She was telling me about her. She's got a fully operational crafting room as well. She's a Michaels addict and Hobby Lobby. She's also a calligrapher. I get the impression she probably barely even watches TV. I get the sense that if she wants to do something, she goes out to the wood shop. She goes,
she's
busy.
So
good for her, Beth. It was a real pleasure meeting you. And that we need more people like Beth out in the world.
Absolutely.
So, all right, well, let's shift gears, Allan. Here we go.
And now, great moments in building history.
Well, in honor of National Rock Day, I think this was a big plan of yours, right, Max? You came up with this connection early on this week, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to let you roll this out. But
literally.
Okay.
Well, let's go back to the spring of 1973, and the Rodriguez family in Fafi, Portugal, were having a fine time enjoying the mountains in spring, and parents had a fine idea while the kids were outside playing while they were sitting in the car. I like this experience. Why don't we try to capture and hold on to this experience and build ourselves a holiday home? But with very unique materials, I might add.
Right.
The nice thing about the Rodriguez family is they actually come from a building pedigree. And so they literally built their own home, or built their own holiday home, which today is known as the Casa do Penedo, or the Boulder House. And not only
it literally looks like the Flintstones.
Yes, and not only is it a boulder, it's boulders.
Right.
It's 4 boulders butted together. And where things get a little bit funny is when they first bought the property, 3 people claimed ownership of the 4 boulders.
Okay, I was curious about that, Max, because I watched the video, and honestly, it was really difficult finding any images of the inside of this place, because I guess they still use it, right?
And that's kind of the cool thing, is it's very discouraged to take pictures of the interior because it still is a holiday home for the Rodriguez family.
But now the video I saw, they said that the family was up there, and it's folks, if you can picture, kind of rolling. I don't know if they're mountains, but they're at least very respectable hills. But it's they were at the top elevation. And they were sitting there. They were ready to have their picnic, and it started raining. So they're sitting in this car for like well over an hour, maybe 2 hours, eating. And he said they were staring at these rocks. There was 4 giant. We're calling them rocks. These are giant. Some of them are. I think one of them looks to me at least 20 feet tall or something. And it's like, the space in between this, right? I mean, it was something like that. It got the wheels turning. So,
and like I said, they literally got to build it themselves because the family comes from like a textile and architect, like that sort of pedigree. And so I like the idea of the sort of can-do attitude. If we build it, if we want to, we can build it. But where things get very interesting is the Rodriguez family. The parents grew up in the 1930s and 40s, and more than just kind of, this goes back to your client that you just met recently.
Yeah.
They wanted to kind of preserve the joys, relive the bygone days. And so while it has running water and gas, it doesn't have electricity or technology because they considered it a distraction.
They want to escape. That this is where you go to get away for the weekend and not be attached to your technology.
Exactly.
And also,
the interior is very French provincial.
Okay.
And it is set up like a turn-of-the-century kitchen. I've seen pictures
pretty
of the
basic.
inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, so of course,
I saw a few pictures, but I wasn't sure. But
yeah, you knew I had to go focus on the kitchen.
Right.
So it's kind of like, they got water. They have lighting. They got windows.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing is it's kind of like anybody that builds an alternative home. Pretty much anything can be a wall.
What do you? Well, these rocks.
Well,
sure
they have gigantic boulders in this instance, but I'm
Right.
also thinking of the people that have converted airplanes into houses, people that have converted shipping containers, railway cars, anything of a good, solid, rigid structure can technically be a wall.
Anything that separates the inside from the outside. Is your wall.
It just depends on how you want to do it. When you do look at this thing from certain angles, especially if you look at it from behind, it looks like somebody left a roof on a rock.
And that's essentially what happened. They built it from the top down.
Yeah,
because that's what you could do, right? I mean, you could just put the roof on, cover the space, and build
and
up.
then do whatever you wanted to do, right?
And it's funny how those 4 rocks were separate. I mean, they were separated almost perfectly, right, Matt? It's not a perfect square, but it's pretty darn close.
I'd say so. It almost kind of where things get a little bit interesting too is the fact that the material for the interior, you mentioned wood, was actually built from local materials, which I rather like local wood from orange trees, which is pretty cool. I don't get this. There's a 350 kilogram sofa made of concrete and eucalyptus. What's the logic of the eucalyptus, Allan?
Well, eucalyptus is an air freshener, and it is also a very hard wood.
Oh, to keep it from getting mildewy and funky.
Yeah, eucalyptus is awesome.
Because I wondered about moisture. That's always the first thing you wonder about.
I've seen a picture of part of the couch, and it's big and it's heavy, but honestly,
it's literally not going anywhere.
From a Flintstone point of view, as kind of a big guy, I appreciate a solid piece of furniture.
Yeah. I mean, I have to imagine these giant boulders, and then the fact that all the walls are made of rock, I have to think that regulates the temperature pretty well, right? I mean, keeps it warm and cold, depending on... Because remember, we talked about that community in Australia where they live underground, and it's always 70 degrees, underground.
Well, this is going to be one of those... It's going to be slow to move the temp.
Okay. All right, so there's more to talk about. It's a pretty interesting construction, very simple, but very profound. The Casa do Penedo. And we're going to continue to talk about that when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I haven't seen you fellas since you destroyed my home, my land, and my rocket.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Well, let's face it. I mean, it's going to be an awkward conversation after you do that. So, anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0700. 0989. And remember, you can also send pictures and video, according to Max. So speaking of Jay Hill, in a minute, we're going to get back to our discussion about the Casa de Penedo in Portugal. But it's a very interesting little segue here because we want to talk first about our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. And you have to wonder, what would he do if they contracted him to put the roof on this thing? He might have to get outside of his comfort zone, Allan, because this is a rock structure. To me, as far as I can tell, they put a rock roof on here, didn't they? I don't know. But
it is stone slates. I think Jay's done something like this, though. I remember talking to him a little while back about some of the cool antique roofs that they've worked on.
Well, one great thing about Jay Hill, when you call him, for one thing, he brings an optimism and energy to a project that just sets your mind at ease and gets you excited about the project. And you can't really flummox Jay. If you showed up and said, we got a rock house and we need a rock roof, he'd say, I'll be over in 10 minutes. So that's the way
I'll bring
he
my
is.
camera.
He's always, but he always deals with the latest technology in roofing technology. He's a GAF Master Elite installer. He is one of the top-rated roofers in the Mid-South. It's kind of a horse race. It goes back in terms of it. If you go to the Better Business Bureau, he's always 5 stars, and same with Good Housekeeping, and he's right up there rated. As we said, top-rated. Partly, it's in part because of his expertise and also his track record. The guy has been doing this for decades. This is what he does. He's all about the exterior protection of your home. It's not just the roof. It's your gutters. It's your siding and your windows. They all need to work together harmoniously. And the funny thing is, Allan, if you have somebody that doesn't do it correctly, you're going to know about it, and it's going to cause all sorts of problems. So these are systems. They actually work as a system, including the roofs. The GAF roofing systems are so efficient that they actually offer a lifetime transferable warranty. So you have, I can't tell you the peace of mind. I mean, Allan and I both have roofs that were installed by Big M Roofing, and I never even think about my roof anymore because it's not a problem. I used to have leaks all the time, and ever since then, not only that, our utility bills have gone down substantially ever since we had it. Our roof runs cooler, therefore our home runs cooler. It's we just love Jay Hill. And also, they have great financing. He's got 30 lenders at his disposal. And also, he is a former insurance agent, which is hugely important because if you have any damage to the outside of your home and you think you might need to make a claim, for one thing, if you can make a claim, it's going to save you thousands of dollars, maybe even tens of thousands of dollars. But it is a process, and you need to go about that process properly. The first person you should call is Jay Hill. It's a free consultation. He uses his expertise in insurance to let you know if you've got a path forward. And if you do, it is going to save you a lot of money. And it's exciting, too, because now this daunting problem is going to be taken care of. And we love Jay Hill. We love the business culture he's created over there, and we're really proud of the work that he does. So he also encourages you to call him directly. You can reach Jay right now at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. So we're getting back to our discussion. Oh, go ahead, Max.
I wanted to mention, as we kind of get back into our discussion, an important thing with the Casa do Penedo is the idea of embracing the beauty of perfect imperfection. Because when you look at the structure itself, nothing is even. There are no straight lines. Well, that's because there's no straight lines in nature. And that's because the structure is kind of meant to have a sort of communion with nature. When you look at the home itself, the walls aren't even. The windows literally aren't even. And even the floor isn't even. And even if you look outside, the pool doesn't look even. It just looks like you took a sword and just hewn through the rock. And it's like, it looks like there's a little dip in it or whatever, like it could leak at any moment. But it's like, no, it doesn't.
That's a good point because from some angles you don't even see that it's a house. It looks like a pile of rocks. So they didn't move anything. Yeah, they didn't cut out straight lines into these rocks. They just embraced what was there. So I did have practical questions though, Allan, because rocks, okay, we say it all the time. Everything moves. Everything expands and contracts. I'm assuming these rocks are the same type of rock. I mean, it's not likely you'd have one type of stone right next to another, right? I mean, these are literally feet apart. So
these are probably of just guessing by the area and about where this falls on the planet. Of you're looking at some Ice Age boulders.
Okay.
They were pushed into place by the ice sheet, and of course, when it retreated, it got left.
Yeah, it looks something moved it there.
Yeah.
So-
These were definitely probably your good old basalt, standard, pretty much standard rock for the area.
Because they're at the peak of a hill or a mountain, whatever you want to call it, but they have rounded edges. So yeah, something must have rolled it into, so.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying this is definitely Ice Age construction. But, the cool thing is throughout human history, we have always managed to take advantage of the serendipity of what we found.
Right.
So, the center of the United States became the breadbasket of the world. Why? Because it was already flat.
Good point.
Well,
yeah.
it was already
so
flat.
you start
because,
planting because you can grow a lot of crops there.
We had ice sheets that came down and came all the way to Memphis, all the way down. So from Memphis up, like if you drive to Chicago, you're driving through former ice fields.
Well, it's the most boring drive you're ever going to have. I hate to say it, driving because I've done it many times. It's flat and boring, but you can't help but notice how many crops. So it's serving a purpose. It's feeding the world.
Now,
and feeding,
you go from Memphis and you drive down through Arkansas or down through Mississippi, and now you're along the Mississippi River, you're driving through the Delta, which is a sloped environment with very different dirt, very different very different issues because it's a really different part of the world. So here we're looking at the gentle rolling hills. Kind of reminds me of Kentucky.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it,
looks a little more arid than Kentucky.
Well,
but yeah.
this is over in the Mediterranean area, but the rolling hills remind me of Kentucky. So we're looking at Ice Age type stuff and huge boulders, and the family just sat there one day and went, I bet we could build this. And you look at it, when you look at a close-up picture, it looks very, I'm not going to say amateurish, but I'm going to say it looks very art house.
I think it's what Max just said. They embraced imperfection. They weren't straight. They weren't saying, okay, the roof line has to be perfectly level.
You look at it and say, no, we're going to make this playful because this is, as I was reading a little thing up here on it, they were like, this is a house of rest.
Well, Max, you said it too. This was voted the #1 most unusual home in the world, right?
It went from number 8 to number 1.
And the thing about it is they wanted to build this place as a retreat to tie into nature, to get away from the world, but yet the world's following it, right? Because they can't get any privacy now. Everybody's everybody wants to see this place.
It's cool,
And they're climbing up. Yeah, well, I think they've arranged it where, because at first they were really put off by it. They're like, this is our property, get out of here or whatever. But now I think they arrange like, okay, 1 or 2 days a week we'll give tours or something. But, I
think it's part of an actual planned tour now.
Yeah,
so
which makes more sense. So it's like the rest of the time, respect their privacy.
Among other things that you could do on the tour, you could even get shepherding lessons.
Oh, now that's fun.
Yeah, you could reserve the pool. You can learn how to be a shepherd for a day. I like that. It kind of goes back to the good old days, because I guess back in the 1930s and 40s, Portugal was a little bit more simple, and so they wanted to kind of recapture that element of simplicity.
It seemed like this construction checks all the boxes for you, Max. I mean, you always like imperfection and embracing that, and
the idea of you don't necessarily need a lot of technology in order to make something functional. But then again, they live in the Mediterranean where the climate is a little bit more even keel. It's like when we were talking about Francisco Antoni Gaudi back, because Spain and Portugal are basically neighbors. And so how Gaudi built structures where you don't need AC by virtue of how the homes are constructed in the apartment complex. I imagine that the climates of Portugal and Spain are fairly similar.
Probably. This one, I can't tell how elevated it is, if it's like the air is thinner or something. But Allan,
no,
today
we're not actually up in the Alps.
Okay.
We're on the foothills.
But today is National Rock Day, and I really was curious about how stable. I guess these things have been here for generations, so I'm sure would this make a stable construction if you just because somebody else might come along and say, well, we're going to build our building and we're going to attach it to this gigantic boulder. Would that make it more stable or less stable? Like, in other words, on some level, are these things moving at all or shifting?
I will give you my favorite answer by an arborist.
Okay.
Well, do you think this tree is going to survive another storm? Well, did it survive the last one?
Okay.
It's kind of one of those again, now, what you're basically asking, is this geographically or seismically stable?
Here's what I'm asking. Let me lay it out better. Okay, we've all seen this, Allan. You walk into somebody's house, and right above their front door, there is a crack that goes up, and it veers to the side, and that's because either the foundation is settling or something.
Right.
I'm not talking about this thing collapsing, but I'm just saying, would it sink? Would it expand and contract? And which in fact breaks the seal between the new thing that you added on? That's what I'm asking. How much movement do we got going on here?
I think in the fact that these rocks have been sitting there for the last 12 to 15,000 years, I would have to say they're pretty good.
Well, we don't know that they're not moving a few inches one way or another every year. So that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, and I think we do know at this point. I think we're 15,000 years after the soil has settled.
What do you want to say?
I was also gonna. I guess you could also say it also depends on the location. Like this construction of boulders was the perfect level of symmetry and everything to where it doesn't move. What I was going to say is I wonder if the fact that because it's surrounded by a wind farms, you see a lot of windmills around it and everything. So I guess that contributes to airflow or maybe possibly pushes the rocks a little bit.
Yeah, I wondered if that also keeps the air moving in your house and keeps it from getting mildewy.
Well, again, air motion is, we talk about air being a key factor here, and we'll get more into that when we come back.
Okay, yeah, and we got other things to tie up, too. We got a lot to cram into this last segment like we always do. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
The likelihood of you dying violently within the next 5 minutes is 87.61%. You are about to get me killed. We will both die because of your negligence.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Now, when that alert goes off, are you allowed to clock out early, Allan? I guess OSHA would allow that.
When that alert goes off is generally when I get a phone call.
Yeah, no kidding.
Hey, Allan, you want to come over and see this? Is it the blue wire or the red wire?
Exactly. Get MacGyver over there. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. There's just enough time for a quick phone call or text at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. In fact, I'm counting on it. We often get these texts that are,
in the last minute,
30 seconds before the show goes off. They want to ask us a question or tell us something. But, never fear. We'll get to it next week if we don't. But a few parting thoughts about the Casa de Penedo, our Great Moments in Building History discussion. It's funny, Allan, because they built this, the Rodriguez family built this as a retreat, as a way to escape nature, get away from civilization, and it was so cool that they can't keep civilization away. They literally have thousands of people every year trying to come and see their house, right?
It's the Field of Dreams logic.
Yeah, but the Field of Dreams needed people to show up to pay for it, right? So it's like,
what do you expect to happen when you go build a Dr. Seuss looking house?
It is. It's something.
It really looks like an illustration from a Dr. Seuss book.
And no two sides are the same. They all look different.
It's just plain cool looking.
Well, Max, I got to give you credit because I never heard of this place. You're the one that discovered it, and it is an interesting. And folks, if you're trying to find it, it's spelled a little different because I wanted to put it. It's CASA and then DO and then PENEDO. I wanted to call it the Casa de Penedo, and when you Google that, you get sent to a totally different place.
I think it's Portuguese instead of Spanish.
Yeah, I think it was some singer that actually had a very similar name. So I was getting all these videos popping up about that, but. Anyway, good conversation about that, you guys. The number one most unusual home in the world. So, all right, I wanted to shift gears. I wanted to share something that I did. A lot of times, in life, we say, oh, I should do something. We should do this. We should do that, whatever. But we never really actually do it. I've talked about doing this for years, and honestly, I've never done it. And I did it this week, Allan. I was putting I'm working on that big project in Midtown.
Right.
I'm putting up these are tongue and groove 3-inch slats up on this 24 by 23 foot ceiling. I've put up like 400 of these. I mean, it's a lot of slats that go up.
Right.
So folks, I'm putting this. It's a two-car carport with a vaulted ceiling, and I'm enclosing it. So what I'm winding up with is a space about 18 inches between the bottom of the rafter and the ceiling. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put I was looking at this clear plastic tub that holds screws. I said, I'm going to put a little note for somebody that finds this in the future. I'm going to make a time capsule. And then I started having fun with it. And I said, I'm going to I put a little note, and I said, hey, if you're reading this, my name is Joe Thorderson. I gave my thing, and I put my business card in there. I said, I built this. Today is July, whatever. I'm about to enclose the ceiling. And I put a few little details. I said, I'd love it if you'd look me up, on the public records or something. Then my daughter, who was helping me paint that day, she got in on it. She put a note, and we put a few little goodies. Allan, you'll be very proud of me. I stuck a Tool Talk Radio tool belt in there. So I stuck our Tool Talk Radio business cards. I put it up, and I'm like, you know what? Who knows where this is going to wind up or when it's going to be discovered? And I just thought it was a fun idea, But, I mean, I don't know that I've ever done it, but I think I might start doing this on every job now. But what do you think, man?
Well, I have one job where somebody had done that 40 years ago.
Really?
Purposeful
like that?
What they had done was they left notes on the inside of the sheetrock as to what they did to solve a plumbing problem right here.
Now, I've seen that. I have seen measurements. I've seen that.
Left me a note and the measurements that went, we had to cut it here and do that, and we did this, and that's why you're seeing what you see. And
now, that's very courteous
that was awesome.
Right there.
I thought that was awesome because suddenly you went from scratching your head to, oh, that's what you were thinking.
Or watch out for the high voltage wire 2 feet over.
That would be
or
nice.
Yeah.
They don't ever leave me those notes.
No.
Now, I have also left notes why we did something. Since I saw the first one, I was kind of like, yeah, it's a great idea. I got a Sharpie in my pocket.
Throw it in there.
And it's kind of like, okay, why did we put this double up right here? Well, we did this because the client was hanging something huge on the wall.
Right.
So don't open this wall up and go, what idiot put a 4x4 in here? But why do I need a 4x4? Well, I got a client hanging a heavy bag off the sidewall so they could kick it. So I'm going to put a 4x4 in here instead of a 2x4.
I have discovered notes like that, and usually I think it's for their own purposes. They made a note so that they remember what to cut or something. But at the same time, when I've discovered those, I do the math. I'm like, okay, somebody wrote this in 1972 or something, and it's still cool because you have to take yourself back. What was the technology back then? And my thought was, like, with this note that I wrote. Now, this is a time cap. This was to tell them about me and about and I plug Tool Talk. Allan, you'll be happy. They'll probably be able to Google it back. I mean, in the future. Yeah. I guess I was curious about who knows who might discover this. Maybe it'll be like construction robots that. I was thinking of the movie I, Robot, and then. Would that be something they'd appreciate, or does it just get thrown in the scrap pile?
Well, I assume there's going to be a human around there somewhere.
I hope so.
That,
Yeah. Well, now my luck will be that they'll get tired of the ceiling in 5 years and change it, and then so my big drama will be. But no, I think it's going to be around for. It's a very classic ceiling. It's not going anywhere, and it's just interesting to think about leaving something, and it makes you start thinking like, yeah, this is going to be around long after I am. And building something with that mindset is kind of interesting, too.
All right. Well, you keep in mind our buddy Brandon Olmsted over at Geek Tank. He would be more than happy to hide like a Halloween skeleton in a wall.
See, that's the better option.
Yeah,
you hide something in a space where, you put a tool belt on them, you put a hammer in their hand, and then you have, give some future homeowner a heart attack when they do that. So... But anyway, good, clean fun. I think the time capsule is going to be my new thing
you like
that.
If nothing else, you'll be giving a squirrel a beautiful home.
Now, Allan, we create a digital time capsule here every week. You
We
could
do.
say, I mean, you can listen to past shows. There's a lot of things you can do.
You have
right?
literally years of us we are part of the podcast family over at YouTube. We're also on iHeartMedia and Cumulus. So we are pretty much all around the world. And a quick shout out to Finland again. Because
are they
Finland
tuning in?
keeps listening. Yeah, you guys are having a great time with us. We would love to hear from you if you're from outside the area. Send us a question, send us a picture, show us what's going on in your neck of the country and or world. And, of course, you can always keep up with us at tooltalkradio.com.
Yeah, Finland, I'm very curious about what they deal with out there. Like right now, I have to imagine Finland's probably, their summers in the 60s or 50s, right?
They have
It's
their
not-
6 weeks of summer. Yeah.
And then now they're going to be, so soon they'll be thinking about winter. But you just wonder what that kind of construction is like, and what home improvement issues do you have when you live in Finland or something? That's what we want.
Their
I know-
issue is frost.
I know you said people in New Zealand listen, right?
We've actually got a pretty good following in New Zealand, Australia, Tasmania. Love to hear from somebody from Tasmania, man. That would just be sweet.
What goes on in Tasmania? I mean, I only think of the Tasmanian devil, but is that more?
Oh, no,
is that
that's
a hotter climate?
No, that's cooler. They're further south. They're a little down lower.
Okay. All right.
So,
well, that's the beauty of technology. I mean, as much as I sometimes gripe about it, it is fun to be able to connect with the rest of the world. And like we said, after meeting Beth this week, it's a reminder everybody's got a story. And
we all do.
It might be an interesting one. So take the time to get to find out. But Allan, we have no more time now. We got to get out of here. So on behalf of my buddy, Allan Gilbreth, and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.